Hey, everybody, welcome. We're going to give people a couple minutes to join. We'll get started in a couple minutes. In the meantime, feel free to get all your equipment for cooking if you don't have it ready. I know it's a bit of a late dinner, so you're probably all salivating already. We'll get started cooking as soon as we can. But in the meantime, you can use these 2 minutes before we get started to get all your equipment assembled and your ingredients assembled. Chef, anything to note in particular about the setup?
Yes, while you're kind of watching and gathering, I'll give you a quick overview of what I've got in front of me. We're going to keep it really simple. I've added a couple of embellishments that might go beyond the menu you have in front of you, but they're more of like takeaways, what you can use in the future. So in front of me, I've got a good olive oil. I'm going to use that tonight to cook everything. That'll be my baseline, like fat that goes into the pan first. That'll be what sears, what fries, what adds a little bit of that fat flavor. For vinegar, and we can use this in multiple places, but primarily it's going to be just an additional splash of flavor in the potatoes. I've got really nice red wine vinegar. I've got salt and pepper at the ready. I've got some smoked paprika, which is going to add a little bit of flavor to the potatoes. That's where we're using that. I've got some fresh herbs. So I've got thyme, rosemary, and chives. The thyme and rosemary primarily are going to be our basting flavorfuls, our basting aromatics. So we'll use those to incorporate flavor as we're cooking. And then I've got chives and I've got scallions. Both of those are going to add additional flavor towards the end of the potatoes themselves. I've got a garlic and a shallot. You can substitute a onion if you have it. You can just use an onion or just use garlic. The combination of them plus the oil is, I believe, pretty magical. Let's see what else I got. A little bit of red wine. If you have some and you're cooking any of these things, you want to make a little bit of a sauce in the pan at the end of it. Red wine is a great way to go. And let's see, I've got a cutting board, my pans. I've got a pan ready for steak. And so for me, I've got the steak on a pan now, but I don't want to put the raw steak back on a pan. So I've got a separate pan that'll house the raw steak when it's done. Same for the rest of the proteins. And then I've got a plate ready so that we can eat it.
Awesome. Awesome. That's quite a setup. If your setup doesn't match that, you should just feel slightly inferior, but you should also just feel normal. That's quite a setup. Thank you. And if in the ingredients, if you got a packet, the ingredient sheet, instruction sheet is for the default, which was the steak option. But if you haven't already inferred, Chef Yankel is going to run us through simultaneously steak, salmon, and Impossible Burger cooking. Don't try that at home yourself. And you can also refer to the instruction sheet as you're cooking if you want to clarify anything, or you can just orally pop in with any questions. I think we're about ready. We have 55 people. So Tracy, if you are ready, would you like to go ahead and open the show?
Absolutely. Thank you and good evening, everyone. We're so glad you could join us tonight for this virtual culinary experience. I hope you're ready to cook with Chef Yankel and fellow reunion alumni. We are eating our meal. Heath McNeese, the unparalleled freestyle improvisational rapper, will entertain us with interactive customized raps. Make sure you have your U of R swag, if you don't already, so that you can participate in fun tonight. My name is Tracy Matrano, and I came in as a transfer for the class of 1980, but I stayed all 4 years, so that pushed me over to 1981. I'm volunteering for our 40th reunion. And while on campus, I was a resident assistant. I was also an area advisor, and then also participated in student government as the president of the Student Association, 1980 to 1981. I followed that up, by the way, with a 2-time run for Congress, but unfortunately I'm in a very red district, so I was not successful, but very glad to share this evening with all of you this great experience for our U of R reunion tonight. I'm honored to be our host this evening, and I will introduce our special guests. I want to take a moment before that to go over a few housekeeping items. The program is being recorded, and it may be used in marketing for the U of R. If you're not comfortable with that, you may want to consider turning your video off, not the whole program, just turn your video off and we'll just see your name in the screen like that. At any time tonight, you may submit questions via the chat function located in the lower part of your screen, or ask it out loud, brothers and sisters, as we go along. We're encouraging interaction tonight. Many professionals have been accustomed to always muting yourself when you're not speaking. That's not where we are tonight. We're out here to have fun and to share. So go ahead and keep it on. Now, if you have a dog or a grandchild or child or some train going by in the background, yes, go ahead and mute. But otherwise, if it's just you, speak it out. We want to hear it. So I invite you to choose speaker view from the drop-down menu at the top of your screen. This will allow you to see this evening's speakers more easily. And with that, looking forward to this entire evening with all of you and our guest chef and our amazing rapper. I'm turning it over to Joseph.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tracy. That was a very nice introductory speech. And I loved the cozy fireplace in the back. I need to get myself one of those also. Hey, welcome everybody. I'm Joseph Christel from Get Some Class. I used to be a lawyer. I worked at Davis Polk, a law firm, but that wasn't fun. So I decided to go into the business of making fun, cool stuff. And what better time to do that than during COVID, where no one knew how to do it virtually anyway. So this is I think it's our coolest, fun, most fun program. I'm not going to keep you hungry for a while. So just going to describe it very briefly. We're going to do the cooking, and then we will, once we're done the cooking, or at least once we're done most of the cooking, we are going to have Heath McNeese from the Disney freestyle rap group FreeDaps do some very cool freestyle rap. If you haven't ever seen freestyle rap, don't worry. If you don't like regular rap, you will be quite entertained by freestyle rap. It's a bit different. And we will describe those segments as we get there. In the meantime, I'm going to hand it over to Chef Yankel. But first, I'm going to tell you that Chef Yankel is the king of virtual video tutorials. His day job, not to put the pressure on, is doing video shorts for ButcherBox. He's been head chef and manager of many restaurants, and I believe many restaurants simultaneously as well. And meat is his favorite item to cook, although he's pretty good at fish, and I think he's good at Impossible Burger too. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over the dinner prep to you, Chef. Please take it away.
All right. First of all, an honor to be here, and welcome to everybody who's involved and who's back. And Tracy, you mentioned the year I was born, so I feel young again, which is wonderful. And
I feel old.
I didn't intend to put that on you. It was
you
just
go for it. You go.
Well,
for
you
it.
look young, Tracy. You look young.
Hey, there we go.
I never would have guessed. And I also don't feel that old. So I know some of you have steaks, and there are some people with salmon, and there's some people with burgers, Impossible Burgers, and then maybe some people who are just watching. And I'm going to do my best to provide everyone with a bit of education around what it takes to cook these items spectacularly. Just a quick review of the ingredients. The basics of what we're going to do tonight is going to be a sheet pan potato dish, very simple. And the idea is we're going to use household items, things you have in your pantry, and we're going to get those going initially, because always the process is going to be start with what takes the longest, and roasting a potato well can often take a little bit longer than cooking a protein from scratch, especially a sort of a single serve protein like a steak or a fillet of salmon or a burger. And then we're going to go through what the process of cooking a steak is all about. And this is a process that's applicable more or less across the board to all of your proteins, whether it's fish, meat, poultry, or anything else. And then we're going to enjoy it together. We're also going to use what happens in the pan to create a quick pan sauce, if that's something you're interested in. So to get us started, I'm going to start with the potatoes. And what I want to do is give everyone like a minute or two to sort of give a thumbs up if they're ready to get going on potatoes. If you're just watching, put the thumbs up in there, because then we know I don't have to wait for you. If you're going to grab your potatoes right now, go grab them. What we're going to do with the potatoes is we're going to cut them in half, or pieces that make them even, and then we're going to add some herbs and a little bit of additional flavor, and we're going to toss them in an oven. So 375 degrees is kind of where you want to be. If you are iffy about, like, my oven is sometimes not cooking as fast as I want it to, or I have a convection mode, 375 on convection, A+. Anything less, I would go with 400, electric oven, etc. So to get started, always going to put an edge on my knife to make sure the last time I sharpened it stays true. I'm using baby potatoes, and you can see they're basically baby fingerlings. Every single potato in the world is going to work well for this dish. I love the sort of creaminess of these potatoes, but it really doesn't matter. The idea here is we're going to cut them small enough and uniformly enough that they cook evenly. And I've got a bowl ready that I can put them into so I can get a really even mix of all the other ingredients that we might add there. So in this case, with these, I'm going to go with just sort of inch thick slices. Those are going to go right in. And tonight I'm cooking enough to plate 3 different dishes. That's a salmon, a burger, and a steak. So you can really pick and choose the amount you want to use, but I would say go for about a cupful to match the time that it's going to take us to all cook these potatoes together. And by the way, my oven is already preheated because I need to get a head start on all of you so I can make sure you're doing it correctly. One last thing is, please do not hesitate to interrupt me at any time out loud with a question, a comment, a concern, or even criticism and suggestion. Both of those are very valuable to me.
And you can also pop it in the chat if you feel more comfortable that way, and I'll ask it orally. Chef, can you show the size of the rings again so people have a good idea of that?
Yeah, so we're looking at roughly an inch, give or take. I wouldn't go more than that for these particular potatoes or for any potatoes right now. And the main idea here is that we get the potatoes in the oven. And once we start searing our steak, for example, if that's the main ingredient in your dinner tonight, we want to make sure that the steak has time to cook and then rest in the time the potatoes are cooking. So the potatoes will take about 25 minutes to cook. The steak we can do in a pan in, I would say, about 20 minutes, even a nice big fat cowboy ribeye like I've got right here. And then what we'll do is we'll time the salmon and the Impossible Burger accordingly. So sort of as everything else is coming out of the oven, those are the things that are going to get cooked right then. And then they'll be ready at the exact same time as everything else. And again, take your time with this. By the way, if you're searing your steak on stovetop in a cast iron, which is what I recommend, and you have a smoke alarm in your kitchen, it may go off. So take that into consideration. Maybe open a window or turn your oven fan on to maximum.
We got a question. If the potatoes have been sliced a little thinner, should you do less time? And go ahead, Chef. Yes.
Yeah, so we'll check them periodically. You're looking for fork tender, but not like smash. Unless that's your preference, you could always like roast potatoes and then smash them. And then you've got a little bit of a different dish, but it's still going to be delicious. Thinner doesn't matter. It's really, we'll check them every few minutes or so and make sure everyone's kind of keeping an eye on them. And if you feel like they're done, pull them out. If they're not, we'll let them go a little bit longer. These should go pretty fast, especially because I have a convection oven that's running at 375 right now. So unless you're slicing yours like potato chips, I think we'll probably all match up. So what I'm going to do now, a little bit of olive oil. My choices when it comes to olive oil are always going to be the most exceptional thing I can find. I happened to get lucky this week, and I know someone who's got a connection in Italy and got me some really nice olive oil. So I'm going to use a little bit to dress that. I don't like to measure. I like to judge by how it looks. And so I just want an even coating. I don't necessarily have to put all that olive oil into the pan that I'm roasting the potatoes on. I just want an even coating across the potatoes. And what we want is nice brown crust on the outside, nice, soft, smooth center on the inside. And I'm gonna add just, I've got some thyme, some fresh thyme here, and some fresh rosemary. And then at the end, I'm gonna add some fresh chives and scallions to the potatoes. So I'm gonna reserve some of the rosemary and thyme to baste the steaks and salmon, etc. But in the meantime, if you don't have the fresh herbs, you can absolutely supplement with dried spices that you have in your cabinets, like whatever you like to go to, but garlic powder, onion powder, paprika, cumin, like whatever's hanging out, Italian seasoning, any of those are going to work really well. This is a really simple roasted potato recipe, and you just want to make it taste the way you want it to taste. So I'm going to use the fresh herbs for now. A little chef trick for you is I always have this, what I call a discard bowl, because your kitchen trash might be located elsewhere, but as you do things on a cutting board, you're always generating a little bit of discard. I've got a bowl I can put it right into. Don't have to go far. So we're gonna go with a little bit of thyme, a little bit of rosemary.
But Debbie, sounds like you're already eating those potatoes. Debbie says the chives and the potatoes are delicious. She's running ahead of you.
I want to know her trick is so I'm just gonna give them a rough chop. Anytime I'm adding fresh rosemary to something, I want to chop it up fairly fine because it tends to be kind of woody, I guess would be the description. Like if you don't break it up small, it doesn't really soften up too much. But if you do break it up small, you won't even notice it except for the flavor. So a rough chop between the rosemary and the thyme into the bowl of the potatoes. We're gonna go with a healthy pinch of salt. I'm using kosher salt primarily for everything we're gonna do tonight, and for a couple of reasons. Let's take a look at that. You can see it's got a pretty distinct texture, and for me that allows me to be tactile with it. I can really feel how much I'm adding. It allows me to disperse it evenly. It also melts fairly quickly, and so I get all that salt flavor all over the food that I want as it's cooking. I generally don't use table salt for anything except my bug of salt shotgun, which is a fine implement for shooting flies if you have to. But other than that, table salt.
We'll have a separate seminar on how to do that afterwards for all those who want to stay.
Always look for a good coarse salt. Morton's, Diamond. Those are the two that are really good for cooking. They melt, so you're not left with salt crystals if that's not something you want. Malden sea salt, which I'll show you at the very end as we finish our steaks. That's like a coarse salt with a very, very flat crystal, and that doesn't really melt down, so you get that crunch of salt if you're interested in that. So I'm just going to give these a quick mix.
That's a chef's kind of mixing over there.
It takes a little bit of practice and a willingness to clean up a lot of messes. We're going to go right onto I've got a pan. I want to make sure the pan is big enough so that the potatoes basically have room to breathe. What we really want is equal heat around the potatoes. We want the ability for the outside of the potato, and particularly the skin, to crust up. And if they're all jammed together, that won't happen. So however many potatoes you're cooking, pick a pan size that that leaves you room for all that to happen. These are now going to go into the oven, and then we'll just check them periodically. If you've cut them thinner and you're concerned about your potatoes, and I haven't come back to checking my potatoes, put it in the chat or turn on your mic and be like, are my potatoes done? And we'll take a look at them. So these are going to go into my oven now. I've got it at 375. It's on a convection mode. It should cook in 20-25 minutes, where we're going to get that nice crispy outside and the nice creamy inside. And what I'm going to do now is give everyone a minute to like catch up, say you're ready to go to the next step, and then the next thing we're going to do is start our steak in our pan and talk about what's going to happen there. If you are ready and you've got a cast iron pan, let's get that heat going. And I'm going to turn my cast iron pan here onto a medium. I would just say medium, not medium high, not medium low. I want the pan to heat up, and I want the pan to be able to hold residual heat as I put a room temperature, or even a cold steak, if I've just taken it out of the fridge, into the pan without losing all that temperature. And the reason that I do that is because there's a chemical reaction that happens when you're cooking protein. It's called the Maillard reaction. And basically it's this relationship between protein, sugar, and amino. And as they reach a certain point in temperature, they start to develop what we understand to be flavor molecules. If you smell a raw piece of meat, you know what it smells like. When you smell a cooked piece of meat and that aroma has erupted and it's just everywhere, that comes from that process. And that happens at a certain temperature. And what we don't want to do is lose that temperature when we start that process. And of course, protein has water in it. And so we want to eliminate the steaming element of it as well. So why don't we take a minute? Everyone can give sort of a thumbs up if they're on track, or if they
Yankel, we got
second.
A question in the chat.
Yeah.
If you're using a stainless steel pan, would you recommend preheating it?
Yes, absolutely. So if you're using a stainless steel pan, let's see if I have an example. I certainly do. I've had this pan forever. Don't judge me. Like 20 years. This is pure stainless steel. Let it heat up. You want to add a little bit more fat than you might be familiar with. And when you put your steak in, if it's a steak you're cooking in it, expect it to stick for a little bit. So don't try to move it around. At some point, a sear is going to happen and the steak will actually unstick itself. But you're going to have to play around with the temperature. If you feel like it's burning or the oil is smoking too much, lower the temperature a bit. Stainless steel is great for a good sear, but it's not the easiest way. Cast iron ends up with a non-stick finish, like an egg pan, like what you cook scrambled eggs in, and makes it really easy to get that sear without the stick. Stainless steel requires a little bit more like attention and skill. Absolutely, the best sear you're going to get is going to be out of stainless steel or some similar type of metal. All right, so
question, whether you put in the balsamic vinegar in the potatoes. I think you put a red wine vinegar, right?
I put a red wine vinegar. I'm also going to add a splash. So you can add a splash now and let it cook with it. You can add a splash at the end. I like to add a little bit more at the end because at that point, that's when food is most absorbent to flavor. When it's cold and raw, it's not absorbent. When it's hot and it's opened up, it's most absorbent. And so my red wine vinegar in this particular case, or any vinegar that you enjoy the flavor of, that's going to be the key time to add it is you pull it out of the oven. We're gonna sprinkle it with that vinegar and then toss it again. But if you've added it now, you'll just absorb that flavor a little bit more. Nothing wrong with it either way. But if you've ever noticed that your leftover food tastes better the next day, it's because the flavors you've added to the dish had time to absorb when it was hot, versus sort of a pre-marinade. I'm not big into pre-marinade so much. depending on the protein. And everything we're using tonight is sort of a quick cut, quick cook item. And you really don't need to pre-marinate at all. But when you want to add that flavor, it's going to be at the end of the cooking process.
And I'm gonna put there's an instruction sheet I'm gonna put into the chat, and if you that may be helpful for some people to reference. I think I can put in a PDF. Let me try. In the meantime, Chef, your pan is smoking away.
Smoking away. It's smoking away because every time I finish using my cast iron pan, I season it with a little bit of oil, and so as soon as it starts to heat up, that oil is going to start to cook off. However, when I see even smoke, that means my pan's nice and hot. I don't want to jump ahead here if people are trying to follow along. So Joseph, if you can give me a reference in terms of like people who are cooking along, if they're ready to go, we'll start getting our steak.
If you're ready, thumbs up, either, you know, the digital one or the real one, whichever you identify with more.
So in the meantime, before I put the steak in the pan, salt and pepper. That's my go-to with steak. I've done a zillion different type of herb and spice blends, but really meat just tastes like meat until you add salt to it, and then it tastes delicious. And don't be afraid to go overboard with your kosher salt or your coarse salt or whatever you're using to season, because remember, with a steak, all we get to do is season the outside at this point. And so we want that seasoning on the outside to sort of translate through to every bite. So a little bit more on the outside is going to translate to more flavor on the inside. So I'm just pulling a healthy pinch. The higher you're off the steak, the more equal dispersion you're going to get. Flip her over. Same on the other side. And then if you can stand it up and get the edges, I would definitely recommend doing that as well. There's a lot of really nice fat on the edge of a ribeye. If you're working with salmon and Impossible burgers, you can absolutely season now. So I'm going to just give them also a healthy pinch of salt. The salt will now have a little bit of time before we get to cooking them to work its way in and do some of that flavor addition magic. With those two items, rather than seasoning both sides immediately, I'm going to season one side, and when I put them in the pan, season side down, I will season the other side afterwards. And now for fresh cracked black pepper, which is absolutely the way you should always be going. The difference in flavor between fresh cracked and the stuff that comes already ground is tremendous, and it's worth that extra little bit of energy.
Hey, Yanko, question coming in about the salmon as well. Do we salt the salmon the same way?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, a healthy pinch of salt. I'll do it again on mine. I'm more than happy with that. A little bit more salt on my salmon. Actually, I'll just flip it over and do the other side now, just so you can see. So I've got like here. Let's go from salt dish. So I'll pick up what just feels natural in my fingertips. And then I go over here, and now it's a back and forth motion between my thumb and my fingers. And if I'm close, then you'll see like the salt gets concentrated. When I move a little bit away from the salmon and I start to move around, it allows for an even dispersal. And after that, I'm not concerned with overly salting. Unless I've just dumped the salmon into a bowl of salt, that dispersal is going to give you a really good flavor. So you can definitely do the same thing. We'll do the same thing with the pepper. Got pepper and salt on both sides of my steak. Might as well add some to the salmon right now. If you have a skin on salmon, it's going to cook a little bit differently from a skin off, or from a skin like a salmon that already has the skin removed. And we'll get to the Impossible burger in a minute. We'll talk more about the skin on the salmon in the meantime. So before we get to that, let's get our steaks going. So if everyone's kind of ready, I've got my cast iron pan. I lowered the temperature. Just I want smoke, but I don't want like excessive smoke because you get a kind of a bitter flavor out of that. Tonight I'm cooking in olive oil. I love cooking in olive oil. Olive oil requires a little bit more attention than other oils. You can use a canola or a vegetable oil blend or a sunflower oil or avocado oil or margarine. Any of those are going to work as sort of the fat relationship from pan to meat. But I love olive oil just flavor wise as a sort of a pure ingredient. So I'm going to add olive oil. The one thing to remember if you're using olive oil is it has a smoking point and a burning point that's much lower than your refined oils. An extra virgin olive oil hasn't been refined. It means it's got its natural impurities. Those are going to light on fire at a pretty low temperature. So you're going to see smoke a lot faster. It's just something to be aware of versus like a canola oil, which will, you can get it to 500 degrees and you still may not see smoke. And the smoke means you're going to incorporate a little bit of bitterness if you're not careful. So something to be aware of. But once you add oil to a pan, you'll know it's ready to go when the oil itself starts to move or starts to smoke. I've got movement in the center of the pan and I've got smoke. To me, that's perfect time to get my steak going. So I'm going to go in with the steak. If you're using a bone-in ribeye, I'm going to go with the bone second. So if the bone only sort of represents on one side and the other side is a little bit soft, I'm going to go with soft side first, bone second, because I want maximum contact with the pan for that initial sear. And the bone has a rigid shape, may not give me what I want. Going into the center of the pan. And I'm just going to give it a little push all around to make sure that the other side of the steak, no matter what the shape of the steak was, has even contact with the pan, because I really want that Maillard reaction, that construction of all the aroma and flavors that we want to start happening immediately. The longer it takes, the more chance I have of overcooking a steak. And I'm going to wash my hands because safety in raw protein is always a good thing to pay attention to. Before we go on to our next. All right, for those of you with thin potatoes, let's go check our potatoes now. Just take a look at them. Unlikely, no matter how thin you cut them, that they're ready, but it's worth just checking on them and seeing where they're at in the process, and you can kind of understand how much time you might have left.
And if you want the instruction sheet, I just popped a link to it in the chat. Unfortunately, the file share option is not available, so I can't actually put a PDF in the chat.
So we can see a little bit of browning happening on the edges. Obviously, they're going to be very firm still. So I'm just going to make sure they're not stuck to the pan and put them right back in the oven and forget about them for another 10 to 15 minutes. What you're looking for is fork tender, but not like mashed potatoes, right? You should be able to put a fork in it with no resistance, but they shouldn't be falling apart. So, all right, that's our aim tonight. These are going to go back in the oven. Let's take a look at our steak for the moment. So now comes the time where you play around with the temperature. Cooking a really good steak is absolutely a labor of love. There's no like 2 minutes one side, 2 minutes other side. I have a perfect steak on the table. The more you spend a little time paying attention to it, the less attention you end up having to pay attention to it, you know, down the road. So I'm gonna just kind of mess with the temperature of the pan as I see too much smoke or too much splatter. But I think we're like in good shape because of the preheat. And you can see there's already a really nice crust building up. That's the kind of browning I'm looking for. Right there on the edge where you see it starting to blacken is going to be a little bit past that perfect flavor point. When you see the black, that's carbon that's getting incorporated, and it's going to start to turn the flavors a little bit bitter. However, I'm going to take my chances to get a little bit more brown on here, lower the temperature a bit, and let it go for another minute or two. In the meantime, we're going to do the next element of adding flavor to the steak. And of course, as it warms up, it's more absorbent to flavor. So I've got garlic, shallot, and
there's smoke downstairs.
I didn't.
Alarm may sound. It's going to be loud.
Oh yeah, you're right. There is smoke. You're right. It's working.
It's working. All right. I didn't follow my own advice, my first initial advice. So I'm going to crack some windows.
And we're just gonna watch that sizzle, man. And we'll get to the salmon shortly. The salmon, I think it takes a bit shorter to cook, so it'll get started separately. But it's sitting. Salmon, you're waiting very patiently there. And Mr. Berger, you'll have to be a little more patient.
All right. So we'll get the salmon in the pan in just a moment. I'm just going to prepare shallot and garlic, and we're going to use those to baste the steak in just a moment. So I'm taking the ends off the shallot, splitting it down the middle. Nothing fancy about how we cut this. We're just going to take the peel off. It's going to be a rough cut. All we're doing is going to be pulling the flavor out of the shallot and basting it right into the steak, sort of in the last minutes of it. So just big fat slices will work perfectly. Those aside, we'll pull, I would say, 1 garlic clove. Or two. For the garlic cloves, I'm just going to take off the root end on both. You can do this with your hand or the base of a knife if you feel comfortable. Put the knife flat, hit it with the base of your palm, smash that garlic, peel comes right off. And again, in this case, we're not looking for a fancy cut on the garlic, so I've already actually smashed the garlic to exactly the point where I want it. Let's take a look at that steak, make sure we're not overcooking one side, but I think we're probably perfect. That looks great. So now, for the sake of getting the salmon and the Impossible Burger going, I'm going to lower my steak pan to the maximum low temperature that my stove is going to go. Let it sit there. It'll continue to sear because it's a hot pan. And we're going to go with salmon next. We'll get that started.
We have someone cheating and pre-sous videing their steak, so they're just going to put it in for that last sear. We got some fancy competition for you in the chat, chef.
What sous vide equipment are you using? I'm curious.
It's not the Innova, it's one of the other ones, but I cooked it to 128 and then I took it out when we started and dried it off and salted and peppered it now.
Jewel, maybe?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Is it like the white one? Or does that
Chef Man. BJ's
okay.
special, but yeah, they all work.
So
Yeah,
far, Debbie and Alan, you are going to be contestants for our cook-off for the Chef Yankel competition next time.
I love sous vide, a fantastic and almost foolproof way to make the most incredible food. Something that was adopted in the best restaurants in the world. Technology came out of France in the 70s, and you can't beat it. Just because if you think about it, right now we're cooking a steak. The pan itself is probably in the 300, 400 degree range. You know, perfect medium rare steak is the 125, 130, 135 range. And so automatically we're overcooking the steak the moment we put it in the pan. Not all of it. We're just overcooking some of the outside and a little bit more. But if you can actually manage that temperature the exact way you want it the entire time, I mean, that's really the way to do it. All right, so for the salmon, I've left the skin on. I'm using a non-stick pan. You can use a stainless steel pan again. And this is going to be one of those cases where you need a fish spatula. That's a spatula that's got a pretty sharp edge to it and grooves. So it's not just a solid piece of metal. And you have to be willing to get that pan so hot that it does set off your fire alarm. and then let the salmon stick and unstick itself. You can skip all of that with a Teflon coated pan, which is what I'm using. You can get a nice sear off of these, and it's pretty much effortless. So we're gonna let that heat up. I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil. And remember that when you heat up a pan, it's the same as the meat. Pores open up, like what happens to us when we start to exert ourselves and sweat. As we heat, we open. Pans function the same way. When we add fat to a pan, we're really filling in what's opened up, and that allows for that non-stick surface that you're aiming for. I know I opened this beforehand. Here we go. Enough olive oil to coat the bottom. Oil expands a little bit as it heats up, so just something to bear in mind. I'm just going to check on the steak in the meantime, and you can see we've got a sear going. It's going to take a little bit longer than the other side, but we're going to let it go because our potatoes are working, and we want to handle 2 more proteins while we do this. So I'm perfectly fine with that. Texturally, if you have a digital thermometer, good for you. That is the best way to know what the internal temperature of steak is. If you don't, there are a couple of methods. 2 things happen when you're working with raw protein. One is they start really firm when they're raw. They get really soft as they heat up, and then they start to get firmer again. The old method that I was taught, and that's why I went and bought a digital thermometer, but it was, you've got this space between your thumb and your index finger. And if you just pinch at the very edge, as the steak heats up, the resistance there is your rare. And as you move sort of 1/8 of an inch incrementally in, the more tension you get, the higher the temperature is. And so you go from rare, where it's like just soft and mushy, to a little bit of firmness, a little bit of bounce, that's your medium rare. And then a little bit more firmness, that's your medium. And then all of a sudden the firmness starts to disappear, and that's your mid well. And then suddenly when you're pushing on it, there is no bounce at all. And that means you're well done. Many ways to get to those points slowly, more quickly. The slower you get there, the more delicious and juicy your steak is going to stay, because we haven't just evaporated all the moisture that exists. All right, on to salmon. My pan is hot, smoking. That it looks good to me, so I'm going to go in with salmon fillet. Because I'm doing skin, I'm going to go skin side down. I want a really crispy skin. That's what, for me, skin on salmon with the crispy skin is the most delicious thing in the world. So we'll let that skin do most of the work. Make sure it's not sticking. And again, I'm going to just press down lightly to make sure I've got really good contact. Once I've got that heat going, the sizzle going, I'm going to drop the temperature down a bit, because unless this is the only thing that I'm focused on, I'll probably burn it unless I drop the temperature now to a medium heat. The pan has residual heat, rely on that. The oil has residual heat, we'll rely on that as well. I would say we go for 1 more potato check right now. For those of you, cut them thin. I'm guessing you're coming up on the potatoes being done. If you cut them a little bit thicker, we probably have another 5 to 10 minutes, but let's take a look. All right, so I'm just going to give them a squeeze. My tongs are going right through them. However, they could use a little bit more browning. And so I'm going to let them go a little bit longer. Just again, I'm going to make sure they're not sticking, move them around a bit. I'm going to say we've got 5 minutes left on our potatoes, maximum. If you went in whole, you could probably get away with like 7 to 10 minutes without overcooking them. So mine are going back in for 5. All right. So our salmon is searing, our steak is searing quite nicely. I don't want it to overcook. So I'm going to turn the heat up just a touch, and we're going to start basting. We're going to start adding flavor. So I've got my shallots and my garlic. I'm just going to split them up. I'll use half for the salmon and half for the steak. The holy trinity of flavor that comes into the act of basting is garlic, shallot, and some kind of fat. I'm just going to add a little bit of olive oil. If you want to use butter, you can use butter. If you want to use bacon fat, you can use bacon fat. If you want to use margarine, you can use margarine. All of them are just going to be the vehicle by which you transfer these flavors into the thing you're cooking. We're also going to add a handful of our fresh herbs. So the first thing I'll do, shallots go into the pan, garlic goes into the pan. I'm going to go with a sprig of rosemary or 2. I'm going to go with some thyme. And for the steak, we're going to stop there. I'm just going to add an extra splash of olive oil. There will be some fat that bleeds off the steak that'll allow you to baste with that as well. But I just want to make sure that I have enough liquid in the pan that allows me to baste it. And while those flavors warm up, we'll do the same thing for our salmon. So right now you can see the salmon is cooked from the pan side down up. You can see where it lightens up in color. That means it's cooking through. What I really want to do is actually cook the rest of the salmon as much as I can by basting. And so we're going to add our basting flavors into that pan. Again, I'm going to use the same herbs, but you can absolutely go with something like dill. Goes really nice with the salmon. You could add lemon zest at this point. You could add oregano or marjoram, or even if you wanted to add dried spices from your pantry into the pan right now. You're going to get them a quick toast, and then you'll be able to baste them. All right. Now, for basting, you want a towel that's going to keep your hand safe. A pair of tongs that allows you to move your protein to the top of your pan. I'm going to move my aromatics, everything that I'm using to add flavor, to the bottom. And now I'm going to tilt the pan downwards so that I've got this pool of flavor fat that I'm now going to give my steak a bath in. And once I've given it a bath with 3 or 4 spoonfuls, I can basically lift everything else up onto the steak, let them sit there, and then just continue to bathe it in this fat flavor.
Now is about the point where I start regretting not cooking on the side.
And I'll just check the temperature on my pan. Medium low, just to let that consistent cooking continue to happen. And now we're going to do the same thing with the salmon. Add a little bit more oil, so we have liquid to baste with. I'm actually going to add just a splash of lemon juice as well. I often don't add lemon juice till the end, but I feel like we're pretty close on the salmon, so I'm going to put it in now. I'm going to throw these ingredients right on top of the salmon, get that liquid down, and start to baste. And you can see as I pour some of that flavored butter, it's already cooking the surface of the salmon. So I'm cooking it from top down and bottom up at the same time. I'm going to lower the temperature on that and just let it sit with those flavors for a little bit. All right. Impossible burger time, or do we want to take a quick break?
Well, I think let's get the burger in so everyone has their protein.
I'm going to take care of that.
Yeah. And then once everyone's protein's cooking, we can check on the potatoes and see how they're doing. And then we will be up for our wraps. Heath, I hope you are either cooking or salivating back there.
All right. Impossible Burger.
Is anyone, well, before we do that, is anyone actually cooking an Impossible Burger? I know 2 people got them, but I just want to make sure they're on and cooking so that we're doing this for a purpose. Yes. Okay. Megan's got one. Let's go.
All right, here we go. Salt and pepper. And this thing looks surprisingly like meat. Same concept to seasoning.
Looks like you. I don't think so.
Looks like meat.
I was kidding.
Meat, not meat. Also, it kind of smells like meat, which is cool. We'll find out just what's going on here. We can treat this exactly the same way.
And if your steak's cooking, keep an eye on it. You may be getting done. You may want to pull it out. That's okay. Or you may want to just keep the fire really low. Check it with a thermometer if you got one.
That's a good point. So you can see here, there's a little bit of resistance. This steak is coming right up on a medium rare right now. It depends on how you like it. Medium rare is going to be that warm red center. If you like it a little bit more pink, you want to let it go a little bit longer. You know what? I'm actually going to pull this steak off right now. Or what I'm actually going to do is just turn the heat off entirely. Make sure I've got a good sear on the other side. I like my steak a good medium rare. And one thing to note with steaks and many proteins as well is there's something called carryover cooking, which means that whatever the internal temperature of the steak is right now, and I'm guessing it's around 130, it's going to rise another 5 to 10 degrees as it rests. Now, that's not necessarily going to turn it into a medium or a medium well done steak. If you've pulled it off at the medium rare temperature, what it really does is it allows all the juices that are attracted to where the heat source is, which is the pan, and have gone to the surface. It allows them to reabsorb. And so when you cut into your steak, rather than having all that steak juice pour out onto your cutting board, it stays in the steak, and that's really what we want. So letting it rest for the sort of the rest of the time that we're going to finish up all of our other cooking is exactly what you want to do. I'm going to just pour a little bit of that delicious fat right over the top. And we're going to let it sit there while we finish everything else. I'm fairly certain my salmon is also done, and salmon, you can sort of gauge the temperature the same way you would a steak, that sort of response. So I've got a medium rare salmon here. It really depends on how you like to eat your salmon. And you can see if I pull it open inside, it's still kind of a bright pink orange on the inside, but whiter on the outside. I'm certain my skin is super crispy. I could, I mean, that's like a salmon skin cracker right there. So I'm going to throw all my aromatics on that. I'm just going to turn the heat off. I'll let it sit in the pan. So the other side, which we cooked by basting, gets a little bit more time. And we're going to go into a possible burger world right now. So I'm using the cast iron pan again. You can use any kind of pan for this. You can grill it. It's whatever is easiest for you. Salt and pepper I put on there. Again, ensuring good contact with the surface of the pan is going to give you the sear everywhere you want it. The recommended cooking time for the Impossible Burgers is 2 to 3 minutes per side on a medium to high heat pan, and so that's what we're going to go with.
Chef, do you want to check on the potatoes, by the way?
Yeah. So, if you cut them thin, your potatoes are done. My potatoes, I'm going to let them get crispy for another 1 minute. If you've left them whole or cut them really thick, you can probably let them go another 2 or 3 minutes. But we're gonna let that Impossible burger sear for 2 minutes. We'll flip it and then we'll go check our potatoes. I'm gonna pull mine out and show you how to finish them. In the meantime, I've got a little bit of lemon left. Now is the perfect time to add just a little bit more lemon to your salmon if you're into that. So I'm just gonna hit it right into the pan. It's going to absorb that flavor. That citrus always is going to add a balance element to whatever dish you're making. So where you want that bite, where you've got a lot of savory flavors, you've got, shallot, garlic, the salmon itself has a sweetness. Want to contrast that with a little bit of sour, which is really why lemon goes so well with it. For the potatoes, I'm going to prep for them being ready. I'm just going to use a couple of green onions and a little bit of chives. What I want to do again is a little bit of flavor contrast and a little bit of texture contrast. So rather than cooking these in advance, I'm going to throw them into the potatoes raw, and then you get a really nice crunch out of the whole experience.
And chef, we'll start the wraps after we plate, I think, at this point, because I think everything's close to done.
We are pretty close. Rough cut. Sort of matching what you've done to your potatoes. Nothing too fancy here. Got some fresh chives. Just gonna mix those all together. All right, I'm gonna give our burger a flip. Gently, make sure it you don't rip it in half. Really nice sear happening there. Once I flipped it and seared it, I'm going to lower the temperature just a bit so that it doesn't overcook while we do other things. And yeah, let's grab our potatoes. All right, yeah, those are perfect. You can see like a good amount of browning sort of all over the outside of the potatoes. Everything looks like it's cooked. They're tender all the way through. I'm gonna put them right into my bowl. Come on, maybe lose one or two, but it's always a sacrifice for efficiency. Here we go. And now I'm gonna add right into that bowl my fresh chopped scallions, chives, a little bit of the vinegar. If you added vinegar at the beginning, I will say it's not going to hurt them to add another splash of vinegar right now. That was probably 2 tablespoons if you like measuring things. Again, just a pinch of smoked paprika, because I like to just amplify whatever flavor we went with initially. Want to amplify at the end, and at the end is really when it's going to jump out, when the heat is there and everything is absorbent. These smell incredible right now. Adding that splash of vinegar at the very end is really the magic behind making a really good roasted pan potato. They're so easy to get started, and then do that, and it's like exceptional gourmet style. All right, let's take a look at our burger. We've had roughly 2 minutes on each side. Recommended cooking time is that. It looks good. It's got a really nice sear on both sides. I'm going to turn that pan off, and I feel like we're ready to plate. How's everyone else doing out there? Because I've been talking for a while.
We will relieve you shortly. Everyone good? Holding up? I think everyone's cooking one dish, so I'm hoping that everyone's keeping up with you, chef. Let's plate. We got some people eating already. Yes, if your food is ready, you do not have to be in aesthetic. Yeah, go ahead, dig in.
All right. So I'm going to start with the salmon because the last thing I'll do is actually show you how to cut a bone-in ribeye if you're sharing it. If you're not sharing it, do whatever you want with it. If you are sharing it, if you happen to have to share your 24-ounce bone-in ribeye with people, I will show you the best way to cut it so everyone gets the most out of that particular cut of meat. In the meantime, I like to leave a little bit of room around the edge of the plate so that there's basically a frame for what we're looking at. You put time and effort into making something delicious and beautiful. You might as well lean into the presentation. We're using a flavor combination that I think works well with all of the ingredients we're using. Of course, embellishments across the way can work well. The Impossible Burger could obviously go on a bun. You could cut it up and turn it into tacos. You could serve it on a lettuce wrap. I mean, so many different things you can do. There we go.
And once we're all plated, we'll take a group shot. So the university could have a picture from the event. And if you're not on camera, we would love if you would join us on camera for the group picture. Once you've got your stuff plated, I'll wait for chef to finish, and then I'll give us a countdown. And we will take a screenshot of everyone with their delicious looking food while I gaze on many dishes simultaneously and salivate with jealousy.
All right. So our salmon, because I spent time putting a crispy skin on it, I'm going to serve it skin side up. What you decide to do with your leftover basting herbs is up to you. You can use them as a garnish. You can leave them on there. I personally like to only put things on a plate that are fully edible and that are really relevant to the dish when you're eating it. So for me, a thyme stem is not relevant to the dish once I'm eating it. It was relevant to adding flavor. It doesn't have a space there any longer. However, the crispy garlic and shallot, they are relevant. So I'm going to leave them there. And I'm just going to make sure that my protein is my center of the plate, my star, so to speak. If you do want to incorporate your additional herbs, let them know you put some time and effort into that. Likewise, with our Impossible Burger, it's going to go right here. And let's see, I've got some extra chives left over. I'm going to use those to garnish the Impossible Burger. And then I'm going to hit the salmon with one last sprinkle of lemon juice. So, got lemon. Lost that one. Here we go. Just a little, just that last burst of flavor, that last burst of citrus. When you start to bite into it, it's going to wake up your palate. It's going to make the biggest difference in terms of how you experience the dish. All right, putting all that to the side now. And let's talk about carving a ribeye. All right. So we've got our ribeye. I'm going to move this stuff to the side. We've got the bone running along one edge. And then on the ribeye, we've got basically two key areas that we want to focus on. One is this strip of meat where you can see there's a distinct line that runs. That's the cap. And that is the most flavorful cut of beef that exists in history. Then we've got this area right here at the top, which is primarily fat and also has a ton of flavor, but that's a sort of a particular taste. Some people love fat, some people don't. And then in the center, we have the eye. That's like your main standard steak type experience. And so what I like to do is I'm going to start with the bone and I'm going to cut off the bone, along the bone, just keeping the knife sort of angled towards the bone. If I were doing this on a platter, this would be the first thing to go down on the platter. If it's not cooked the way you want it, throw this back on the grill and you can gnaw on it later. This is like chef's choice, best piece there is. So I'm actually going to just use that as part of our presentation right here. Our bone is in the corner there. Clean the edge of that. All right. Now for the steak itself, what I want is everyone to have the experience of all of those elements. So I'm going to cut the fat point off where it met the bone. And then I'm going to slice, making sure that I'm slicing a piece of the eye and a piece of the cat all the way across.
Someone's pointed out that the live transcript is making some funny little typos. So right now it says, has you slicing a piece of the cat.
My cat would not approve.
Throw her a bone.
All right. So for the sake of this plate and just to keep it looking nice and organized and neat, I'm going to use about half the steak right here. And then I'm going to cut a little bit of that fat point and just add a couple of pieces of that to the plate as well. Let's give that a quick clean up. And then the last thing I'll do, typically with a big steak, I'm going to grab some salt here. So this is a Maldon sea salt. You can get it at any grocery store. It's like I talked about at the very beginning, a very flat crystal. And you can see, if you look at that, it's just nice, crunchy, flavorful salt. And what we're going to do is now just add that little bit of extra seasoning to the inside of the steak that we didn't hit when we first seasoned it. That's called essentially a finishing salt. And it's what you add just for that last piece of crunch. And I think there we go. We've got our salmon. We've got our steak. We've got our Impossible Burger. Hopefully you all are enjoying a delicious dinner right now or are about to sit down to it.
Awesome. Awesome. Chef, thank you so much. Those all look super delicious. Before I put Heath on the spot, let's take a group picture if everyone's up for it. So the university has something to show off for this wonderful program. If you're up for it and you're not on, yes, we're getting some applause for you, well-deserved applause. Please, hold your plate, show it a little tilted to your camera so we can see it in profile, meaning more of the plate. Wow, really nice crowd. Awesome pictures. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. We're going to move over to the second part of our show, the entertainment, while you enjoy your delicious, hopefully perfectly cooked dinners. And Heath, are you up?
Here I am. Here
Okay.
I am, sir.
Okay, Heath McNeese from the famous Disney freestyle rap group Free Daps is up to give some raps for the chaps in the Zoom. Take us away with a boom.
Oh, okay, guys. First things first. I'm sure that a lot of you guys maybe don't listen to rap. So before you leave the chat and eat in silence, I want you to just give me a moment. But first, one more round of applause for Chef Yankel. What an amazing job for Chef Yankel. Capable, handsome, charming. Make sure that you get his holiday cookbook, A Very Yankel Yanksgiving. It's got all of his recipes. You guys are going to love it. My name is Heath McNeese. While you guys were preparing a delicious steak and potatoes, maybe salmon, maybe a burger, and while you're eating it now, I am a single man that lives in Florida. I was drinking Red Bull and eating a meatball sub on my couch. Not quite as delicious, but I will take what Chef Yankel said and I will apply it, because he said that when leftovers taste more tasty the day after, I will refrigerate my meatball sub from Subway, and I will try out that theory tomorrow. Thank you, Chef Yankel, for the tip. I know that a lot of you guys aren't familiar with hip hop. I want you to know that neither was I. I grew up listening to the Carpenters and to Simon and Garfunkel and to the Beatles. And then I had a rebellious phase where I decided that I wanted to listen to Eminem and Dr. Dre and shamed my father. But I found balance, and I want to show you guys what I have learned. Now, freestyle rap is different probably than the rap that you've listened to on the radio. It's all extemporaneous. It's all made up in the moment. And it involves you guys, which is why I want you to stay here, because there's going to be very, very specific Rochester-related material throughout that you guys are going to be involved in. And you know what? What better place to do a culinary show than Rochester University, home of the garbage plate, a Dogtown garbage plate. I am a full-time musician. I've toured all over the world. I had a garbage plate from Rochester, and it put me on my back for about 3 days, not going to lie. It was an intense experience, one that I don't care to revisit. But you guys are also the culinary gateway to the Finger Lakes, and you guys might want to disable your smoke alarm like Chef Yankel didn't, because it's about to get very fiery in here. Now, all of this is made up. I'm going to ask you guys for some suggestions. I'm going to call on different people, but what I want you guys to do, I'm going to freestyle about what you want me to. Any topic that you want, I will make it up. I will make it rhyme. None of it is prepared. It's a once-in-a-lifetime moment. It'll never be repeated as this. But a couple of ground rules. One, you've been eating, you've been cooking, so we're not going to rap about steak or potatoes or anything like that, because I could have written an 8-song album while this was going on, so I want you to know that it's premeditated. 2, no freestyling about your pets. And 3, no discussions or topics that might cause some sort of argument at a dinner table over the holidays between you and your relatives, whatever that might be. With that being said, you have carte blanche to suggest anything else. So if you have something that you want the Floridian man who is wearing his great aunt's shower curtains as a shirt to freestyle about for you, just give a little hand emoji or something like that, and I will call on you and ask you to unmute yourself, and we will take your suggestion. So if anyone wants to, you can raise your hand. And
gotta be on camera to raise your hand or show
yes,
it. Yep.
Need you on camera to raise your hand. And I can volunteer people or have Joseph volunteer. Okay. Debbie Moncrief. Yes. Debbie, can you unmute yourself?
Yes. Ratatouille.
How are you doing, Debbie Moncrief, class of 71?
Great. So
awesome.
I want you to rap about Ratatouille in Rochester.
You want me to rap about Ratatouille in Rochester? Is this Ratatouille like the Pixar show?
Yes.
Pixar movie? Okay, perfect. I live near Epcot, so I save. I don't have to go to actual France because it's just right there with a park hopper pass. Okay, yes, Debbie, I will rap about Ratatouille in Rochester. Okay, anyone else? You can unmute yourself and just tell me what you want me to rap about. Anything in the world.
Star Trek.
I'm sorry, Beth, what was that one more time?
Star Trek.
Star Trek. Okay, you gave me the sign. Okay, love it. Star Trek. Okay, we're going to rap about 3 more things. So who else wants to hear me freestyle about something? Tell me what you want, and I'll make it happen for you. Herbert Cohn raised his hand, class of 60 in the building. Herbert, what can I freestyle for you, sir?
Love is in the air.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Love is in the air.
Love is in the air? Okay, wow. What a sensitive subject. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Herbert. Okay, 2 more subjects. I see Paul Alprin raised his hand. Can you unmute yourself, Paul?
Marching bands.
Marching bands. I love it. Okay. Last one. Okay, I see Joan Bivin, class of 66. What can I rap for you, ma'am?
Garlic bread.
Garlic bread. Okay, perfect. Garlic bread. You leaned in with such enthusiasm. Now, you guys don't know, while I was eating my meatball sub and drinking my Monster Energy drink, I was watching everyone that was on camera. I saw that Nanette's iPad. You guys have been eating for like 30 minutes. I like your style. Joan, I wasn't sure if you knew that camera was on or if that was like a camera in the corner to catch people from stealing from a store because you were so far away. But I will be rapping for you, ma'am. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to rap about Ratatouille in Rochester, Star Trek, love being in the air, marching bands, and garlic bread. This is one of 3 games that we're going to play, and I submit to you now. Now, I know that I've seen some people in 2011, class of 2011, class of 2021. I've seen some people that are also maybe in other classes that aren't as familiar with rap, but I think we can make this happen. All right. Okay. Goes like this. I'm rapping truly. Talking about ratatouille. If I'm your waiter, give me 18%. No gratitude. I rhyme fresher. I get raw today. I saw the rat from Ratatouille in Rochester. He was inside of my garbage plate. Hey, went to France. Saluted my pants. I can rhyme for hours when I go to climb that Eiffel Tower. Rhyming it fresh. You know that I am the best. I don't want that guy from Ratatouille because Frankel is my favorite chef. It goes like this. You know my bar's next. I could win the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. Oh, that's Star Wars. I meant to rap about Star Trek. Yeah, this is how I rock. I'm on TikTok. I say I want you to live long and prosper like I was Spock. Rhyming this sound. You know that I'm down. Captain's log. No sign of life around. Yeah, the way these nerds come through what they say is berserk. I'm not on Priceline, but I look just like I'm James T. Kirk. I heard that he just wanted to fly with Jeff Bezos. That's what happens when you're super rich and you make a lot of pesos. Yeah, I rhyme with the Fuhrer. It's time for me to go into freaking warp speed like I talked to Uhura. You know that I'm rare. Herbert's giving me a weird stare. He's like, when's that goofy white guy gonna start rapping about love being in the air? This is the pal of mine. Leave him running like a gal of mine. Herbert's such a player, he has 7 women that he takes out on Valentine's. Hey, Rhyme Bazaar, giving them Valentine's Day cards. I've been rapping right since the day start. I make a lot of grams. Yeah, I am on Instagram. I'm not talking to music, man. When I said I used to be in the marching band. My uncle was a football coach, but he said I couldn't play. He made me sit on the bench, so I grabbed an oboe and went today. Then I started playing on cymbals. When I got dismissal, started following the band geeks around like I was playing a Patriot missile. I could give you bars instead, leaving them all shook. These are words that I wrote down, all freestyle, no rehearse with a book. Yeah, leave them picking like they had head ticks. Shout out to Joan, she goes to Olive Garden just so she can get those never-ending breadsticks. Leaving the truest balance, I got the truest talent. She just eat the garlic bread, she's never even tried to touch the soup and salad. Yeah, yeah, he's nifty. But Joan's not gonna eat those breadsticks unless Chef Yankel cooked them up to 350. Defeated, I don't even need to repeat it. Chef Frankel's house almost burned down. I think you need to preheat it. Hey, round of applause. We're going to stop it right there. Thank you guys for all of your suggestions. Thank you.
All right.
Chef Yankel is now gone infrared, and I like it. Now, I think we're going to introduce Tracy for a moment as we talk about some of your alumni swag. So, Tracy, do you want to take it away?
Well, we're going to be doing a little contest, as I understand it.
Yes.
So if you have your swag available, we are going to be competing for coolest, most, and funkiest swag, oldest swag. So bring it on and bring it out because we got the rapper who knows what it's all about.
That's right. Oh, man, Tracy, trying to take
Hey,
my job.
baby.
I like it.
Hey, baby. You know, the garbage play was real, but the bird was the steal.
Oh, I love it.
They had to be there for it. And it was Smitty's, not those competitors on the other side that were an imitation.
Oh, okay. So
Man,
Smitty's was the real
Who
thing.
was across the river
Okay.
over on Genesee Street. All right, with that, I leave it and let's see your swag. Let's go.
Okay.
So Tracy's gonna pick 3 people and who are gonna share a memory or something about the university that they really enjoyed or treasure. And Heath is gonna rap about your memories.
You're going to have to help me because
All right, all right.
not sure.
Okay, let's see what we
the
got.
challenge
We
is
got
here.
sassy sauce, Sal's sassy sauce. That looks
that's
funky
getting there.
and sassy and
That's
different.
close to Smitty's. I'm
Okay.
shooting for Smitty's.
All right. All right. So let's go with Sal Sassy Sauce. Barbara, we'll get you up number first there. Oh, we got 2
All
people
right.
with Sal Sassy Sauce. So it wouldn't be original to get the second one. Let's see. Let's see what else we got. Somebody, we got a big Jackets 11 jersey. Okay, Lily Winfrey, you're number 2.
Heck yeah.
And let's see what else we got. Ooh. We got a second person turning their back to me. Learn something the world and make the world ever better. Okay, so let's go with that, and we'll give. So let's go with those three. Nanette. We'll get you in the next segment.
Okay, so let's start with Barbara. Barbara, can you unmute yourself? There you go. How are you doing, Barbara?
Good.
Okay. We won't make you do the Sal Sassy Sauce placement anymore. You can put that down if you want to. You look like you were being hired to do that. Okay, so Barbara, I want to ask you, what is like one of your favorite University of Rochester memories from when you were a student? Just a big one, a funny one, multiple silly memories, whatever most profoundly comes to your mind. What would that memory be?
Well, because I'm staring at the Sal sauce, I would say having Sal's birds with my husband here, who was also a student at Rochester, in the basement of Sam House at, midnight.
Okay. Well, that raises some questions, Barbara. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. What is Sal's birds? What is it? Would they make chicken?
Yes.
Okay.
You know what?
So,
I would never do it now. Deep fried half a chicken smothered in that sauce.
Deep fried half chicken smothered in that sweet Sal Sassy sauce. Now, and you met your husband at University of Rochester, correct?
I did.
And now is that the gentleman that is sitting beside you right now?
This very one.
No.
The very one. Well, I mean, it's 2021. People do different things. Your husband could be out, and you could just have another gentleman over hanging out. Just didn't want to jump to conclusions, Barbara. So this is your husband. Now, can I ask, are you allowed to eat chicken in the basement at midnight on a college campus in 81? Was that allowed? Could you do that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe you just waited to ask for forgiveness and not permission. I like that. So Barbara's number one memory is eating Sal's deep fried birds with her husband in the basement of Sam House.
Yep.
Okay, at midnight. Okay, Barbara, you can mute yourself. Thank you so much. Let's go to Lily. Lily Winfrey, class of 11.
Yes.
How you doing, Lily?
I'm excellent. Thank you for asking. The steak dinner was fabulous.
Awesome. Chef Yankel is the best in the world, so naturally, and you guys learned at the feet of the master. So Lily,
what was that? I didn't hear that.
Oh, I was just singing your praises. No big deal. Just said you're the best in the world.
He meant the feed, as in the video feed of the master.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, there it is. There it is. Now, Lily, what is your number one University of Rochester memory?
I'm going to go with stealing dining trays from the dining room to go sledding down the hill when it snowed a lot.
Stealing dining trays from the cafeteria to go sledding down the hill whenever it snowed. You're talking to a Florida guy, so that just sounds like something out of a fictional book. The closest thing that we could come to that is stealing dining trays to fend off the alligators that were encroaching upon our backyard. Okay, that's a wonderful memory. Now, did you do this in the mornings? Did you do it at night?
I feel like we did it at any time of day. That dining hall was open all day long, I think.
Okay, so basically we've got Barbara sneaking down to the basement at midnight. You're stealing dining trays. So apparently University of Rochester, pretty fast and loose with the rules. I like that. Okay, so Lily stealing dining trays. Last one, we have Cynthia. Cynthia, can you unmute yourself?
I think I am.
Okay, awesome. Now, Cynthia, I'm not going to put any pressure on you, but this definitely needs to involve you breaking some sort of campus rule, just so that the rule of three can remain intact, or not. Whatever your number one University of Rochester memory is, let me know what that is right now.
I also met my husband at Rochester.
Okay,
and,
love it.
He's the stud with the shirt.
He's the stud with the shirt. Okay.
Okay, and one of the earliest crazy memories that we had when we were dating is the heating tunnels keep you from getting frozen between classes.
Okay.
But they were also used to cut through from River Campus through the hospital to go to the bungalow for pizza.
Okay.
And the first time I did that with him, he says, just don't look on either side. Because we cut through the emergency room.
Oh my God, Cynthia, what kind of Mission Impossible thing were you doing?
We were
so
going to
you-
the bungalow.
Going for beer and pizza.
Going for beer and pizza. And I am now a physician, and my classmates in medical school don't believe what we were doing at that time.
Okay, quick question. Was the pizza inside of the hospital?
No, the bungalow restaurant was next to the hospital.
Next
and
to
it
the
was
hospital.
quite famous.
Okay, so you needed to Shawshank Redemption style tunnel through to the bungalow. This is a story not just of breaking the law, but of getting free and then meeting Morgan Freeman on Zihuatanejo Beach later on in life. I love it. So what I've learned most about University of Rochester is that you guys look at rules more as suggestions than things to absolutely be followed. And I love that. Rebellious. I'm from the place of Florida, man. So you already know I'm fast and loose with it. So quick recap. Barbara Burnham, Sal's Birds, eating fried chicken with her husband in the basement of Sam House at midnight. Definitely not allowed to do that. Lily, stealing dining trays to go sledding down the hill 24/7, basically, whenever it was snowing. Probably not when it was snowing too, knowing you guys. Definitely not allowed to do it. Can't steal dining trays. I like your style, Lily. Cynthia, a full, like, War and Peace length story about meeting her husband, the shirt stud, crawling through heating tunnels, not looking at either side because God knows what was on your periphery, to go through the hospital to get to the pizza bungalow, just on either side in the ER. Okay, you know what? There's nothing I can do as a freestyler that will actually be funnier than the stories that you guys told, but I'm going to give it my level-headed best. So I give you the song of the rule breakers. All right, all right. Oh, Lord. Here we go. It's hard to freestyle without words. It's hard to eat chicken if it isn't Sal's Birds. And that's a boss. Barbara loved to eat at Sal's because it had sassy sauce. Yeah, and that's the best game. Coincidence, sassy sauce is also her husband's pet name. Yeah, I know that she liked me. Between her husband and sassy sauce, who's more spicy? Yeah, I can tell you one thing about the basement. At midnight, it was not vacant. Yeah, it was quiet as a mouse. There was her husband and some other dude named Sam in the house. I hope that you're hearing it. I heard class of 81, they said that it was okay to experiment. Barbara, you're super silly. But let me tell you something. You weren't half as a lawbreaker as Lily. This is what I'm gonna say. I don't think at any college you're allowed to steal the dining trays. Yeah, you have to hear it, bruh. Imagine the ladies going inside in the morning in the cafeteria. Yeah, that's some rad stuff. Someone probably got fired because the dining tray number didn't add up. Yeah, I'm a rap reverend. She's been doing it like 24/7. This is odd. She went sailing down the sled like Chevy Chase as Clark Griswold. Rhyme for hire. I bet you put Chef Yankel's Teflon on it and it probably caught fire. Yeah. Lily, I'm into you, but I have to mention that you're not half as bad as Cynthia. This is the perfect part of the verse where I talk about her husband who was the stud with the shirt, but it makes me nervous because when she met her husband who was the stud with the shirt, he was shirtless. Yes, he was the pool boy. He was making lots of rude noise. Yeah, but he was by the swimming pool. But you have to take it literal because she wasn't using a freaking funnel to dig through into the reading tunnel. It's all brittle when she doesn't look on side of the walls when she's going next to the hospital. This is to yours truly. She was so close to the ER that she could smell the cologne of George Clooney. Yeah. And she met Mark Ruffalo when she was inside of the Pizza Buffalo. Yeah. The disgust the people at the bungalow must have thought when you went to the Pizza Hut. Why would you step in the Octagon? You could have gone anywhere not in a tunnel and just eaten at Papa John's. But after this, I've got to go because I don't want pizza from a bungalow. I want Domino's. Yeah, I know that this has been something that you might want to forget or nothing was ever said, but I'm on to you. I want to shout out to Cynthia, Lily, and Barbara. Make some noise for the ladies, the rule-breaking ladies.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome.
Now, very last thing that we're going to do, but I need everybody to help me out. Everybody on this one. Everybody, I want you to turn your cameras on. Everybody. I want Evangeline. I want Alla. I want Janice. I want Edward. I want Joan. I want Marilyn, I want Carl, I want everybody to turn your cameras on because I want you guys to grab an object beside you right now. The weirder, the better. Any object that you have. And I just want you to hold it up to your camera. And my main man, Joseph, is going to spotlight you guys. And it's just going to randomly flip through anything that you guys are holding up. I'm going to freestyle about anything that you are holding up. It's not premeditated. It's whatever you guys have. I'm going to give you like 20 seconds to gather your belongings. As I just take in, you know what my number one college memory was? Getting good grades and going to church. Never any illegal activity going on. It was pretty much, it was 4.0s and church, and that's it. Okay, now you guys have your items ready. Joseph, are you ready, sir?
Yes, I am ready.
Okay. Now I'm going to freestyle about everything that you guys
Just
are holding
hold it
up.
close to the camera so you can be seen clearly. Yeah. All right.
Very
all right.
close. Let's get into it for this final bit. My name is Heath McNeese. I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I want you give one more round of applause to Chef Yankel for doing the real work while I ate a meatball sub in the background.
And just to say, after Heath is done, Tracy will say goodbye and say some last words. And then we're going to hang out. Chef, I think if you're okay with it, if you guys want to have general questions about cooking or implements or anything, Chef will hang out for a bit afterwards once the formal program is done. But
All right.
Heath, you ready?
Let's get into it. All right, hold those items up in the air. Let's go, let's go. Joseph, I will give you the honors. All right. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna take another stab. That coffee mug looks exactly like Russell's stab. Yeah, because you hooked it right. I heard if you've been with a mug long enough, both of you start to look alike. And the rap's a blessing. I saw that mustache on Russell Hab's coffee mug and I said, I must ask you a question. Yeah, because I hope that you see me. Shout out to Marvin Packer, who's holding up PPE. Yeah, I said you must ask you a question. Now Marvin Packer's showing that a mask is a blessing. Yeah, because this is the right team. He's using this so he can avoid catching COVID-19. And I like your style, Marvin Packer. You've got questions, no Green Bay Packers when I say I got answers. Marvin Packer said if you don't like it, you can pack it. And the net came not with a leather, but a yellow jacket. Yeah, I'm rapping this far. You guys are radical. That's why the yellow jacket came with a capital R. Yeah. Because that is not right. Your husband has red on because if he doesn't like it, it becomes a stoplight. Yeah, I hope that I'm speaking true. You guys started eating early, so people from Rochester really cheat too. Yeah, because what's involved? Shout out to Barbara Wood, who's holding up a Russian doll. Yeah, this is my suggestion. I'm so white, Barbara, that doll is exactly my complexion. Because I am so white, I have to apply SPF 5000 even when it's at night. Yeah, I could do this better. I'm seeing Chef Yankel. Sexiest chef ever. Yeah, feeling dopest void. Either that's some sort of cutlery utensil or it's a Polaroid. This is cheese, no debater. If you were a cheese guy, I would say that no one's greater. Did you get that flip? Rhymes it exquisite, so I hate to get with it. Yeah, because I come to speak a flow. Shout out to Beth, who came with a large, oversized head of Frida Kahlo. Yeah, I'm talking to you just now. I think when she goes to the store, she unibrows. Yeah, I rhyme it never. She goes into the sections and she brows together. Yeah, I perform and I sing. Shout out to Diane, who's holding up a freaking mug from Lord of the Rings. Yeah, from some sort of king. Either that or it's Birdman and it's sort of bling. Yeah, because I come to get with this. It looks like one of Wes Anderson's props from Darjeeling Limited. Yeah. Because I know you. Shout out to Ala because she came here with the Roku. Yeah, hit it with the best flick and will. Ala want to Netflix and chill. Ala, you did it. I don't like to Netflix and chill because I'm loyal. I'm into Hulu and commitment. Yeah, I'm not an enabler. I'm just here to talk to Joan, not about garlic bread, but her stapler. Joan, you're awesome and I like you. I won't take that stapler and put it inside Jell-O like The Office's Dwight Schrute. Yeah, you got questions, I got sick answers. She said I don't get the reference, but I still look like I'm Jim Halpert. Yeah, because I'm rhyming it loose. Barbara Birnbaum got a freaking cub with a moose. Yeah, I'm just a bust-in. I still don't believe that man right there is your husband. I saw him and I said, I like this G. But he's like, I'm not her husband. Cover my face with the mug because I'm the side piece. Yeah, the beat with the flows. I just want you to know, Barbara, cheaters get exposed. I'm the greatest son. Shout out to Alan holding up his tag that says class of 81. Yeah, They said I got the good curse. I saw Alan cooking in front of dope woodwork. I'm known for doing lots of things. So Alan, if you need your cabinets done, I do home improvement because I'm a sick stallion, kids valiant. I will fix all of that up like I was Tim Allen. Debbie, could you hold that a little bit closer? Because the lighting's not good and I can't see from the exposure. Oh my goodness. Because I'm prepared for the silk. This looks like a mini how to make an American quilt. Oh, yeah, performing is so rare. Debbie came here with the curlers in her hair. That's the right sound. Debbie, I picture you at night with those in while you're wearing a nightgown. Yeah, Bill Spawn had the best time. Chilling here with some red wine. He's not an alcoholic, kid. He only likes it because of the antioxidants. I'm not saying you're an alcoholic. I'm just saying the first step is to admit you have a problem. Not to mention, this isn't even a cooking show, Bill. This is just an organized intervention. Yeah. Rap for the fam. Irene is holding a statue of a hand. Man, talk to the thug. Is that a paperless straw or is that just you holding up Thanos' glove? I'm rhyming action. Is that Thanos' glove or is that something that used to belong to Michael Jackson? Yeah. They said that he's nice. Shout out to Carol Rugmeyer and that guy holding up a peace pipe. They said this dude's bizarre. That's not a peace pipe. That's something he stole when he went inside of a hookah bar. Yeah, because this nerd's raps. The reason I like Carol Rugmeyer is because our shirts match. Yeah. I drive off in a Hyundai Elantra. We both look like we shop at Tommy Bahama. I think what's better on Gloriella Burns, they're not in a house. They're in a restaurant. I beg your pardon. You were supposed to watch Chef Yankel. It looks like you guys are dining outside in an Olive Garden. I got the Pure Flow. You guys are so rich that you sprang for the Merlot. What I'm rapping on. I see that Chef Yankel's drinking a Sauvignon. Maybe it's a Sauvignon Blanc, stands for white. Heath McNeese, I just came to get it on. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey! Awesome. Thank you so much, Heath. I hope I got everybody. Tried to get everybody that was holding something. Tracy, would you like to say some closing words? Hold on, let me spotlight you.
Sure. Well, I love, Nanette had a lot of artifacts, and I hope everyone saw them. They were terrific. And I want to testify. That is Barbara's husband because we all went to school together. So I am here to testify.
Okay.
And all righty, let me get over into some final moments here to thank everyone for being a part of this event. We're so grateful that you took the time to join us. If you have any additional questions or thoughts after tonight, you can email them to alumni@rochester.edu. And the reunion team will do their best to respond in a timely fashion. Please stay connected to the university. So many extraordinary things are going on there. All of the development, all of the building, the relatively new president. Of course, the challenges we've had with COVID to keeping our students and our staff and faculty straight. Being able to live a healthy environment and learn at the same time. So whether it's by volunteering on your reunion committee, attending other virtual programs, joining your class on social media, or giving to the university, there's something out there for everybody. And there are several ways that you can honor your reunion. A central focus for a reunion gift campaign for all classes is supporting and galvanizing the student experience. One of the most impactful ways to do that is through scholarship support. Another way is by supporting the Momentum Fund, which provides financial support for low-income students. And there are so many in the Rochester area who are not otherwise able to participate in critical experiential learning opportunities like summer internships or study abroad. And you can also help raise money for your reunion by registering for the 2021 Reunion Virtual K. Run, walk, bike, swim, or whatever, 3.1 miles anywhere before October 3rd. So tomorrow, $5 minimum donation is all you have to do to anywhere, any area of the university. I've been so grateful to be a part of this event tonight. I like seeing people who came after and people who came before 1980s. It's been a fabulous evening. It's been a lot of fun. Another round of applause for our fantastic rapper and our fabulous chef. And lastly, we plan to gather in person and celebrate our reunion in health and in well-being for all of us in June of 2022. Keep an eye out for upcoming communications from your reunion staff manager. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good, safe evening. God bless.